Hello student. So, today we will start last module of this course, that is module 14 finance and PPP in municipal solid waste management projects. So, earlier I was not thinking about to float this particular module, but see when you talk about entire solid waste management plan or whatever project in any city, in any country, the most important factor is the financing. And also in last module also I talked about PPP, the public private partnership, what exactly meaning of these PPP projects, and also need to know that whether these PPP projects are more beneficial or some failures or some successive projects under the PPP mode. That also need to know that before going to finalize any particular projects or plan for any city or for any country. So, for today's lecture I will talk about financing in municipal solid waste management project. This is also is very important discussion on financing, because every time we will complain to the local bodies, MSW, if they are not collecting the waste, if they are not treating the waste or proper disposal, if they are not finalizing. So, we will always complain to the local body, and always we are thinking that the corporation have a lot of money, why still they are not able to proper 100% collection or proper disposal. And especially when you see that if there is no cleaning of the street every day or maybe 2 times in a day. So, we will always complain to the local body, saying that they have a lot of money, but why they can't have the proper collection system in the city. But also need to know that whether this local corporation really they have the proper fund available for them, or otherwise they have the lot of money available, but they are not able to utilize that, or there could be some other issues regarding the fund of the local body. That today we will go, and also need to know that rather than just complaining the local body, also need to know that in particular which particular function element is very important. Not only the technical way, but also for management also you will be required lot of fund. And even there are risks for the plan. So, whether you will be required money for the risk of the plan, that also need to know that, which we are going to discuss today. So, when you say the financing implementation structure of solid waste management, traditionally is a combination of government grant and revenues. I think this is what traditionally we will say that is a government fund will be available, or maybe mostly the capital fund, like recently you know that in Swachh Bharat mission lot of fund has been received by the local corporations or for ULBs. That and revenue also from revenue, but revenue also from where the revenue could be possible, that need to know that. Okay. And ULB should be aware that full cost and return of the proposal of MSW services. This is I think I found this particular sentence, that ULB should aware whatever the cost is required. Even not only the capital cost, they should also know that how much is the maintaining cost or operation cost will be required. And also in last module we talked about sustainability, financial sustainability. This has to be known properly, because when you are going for landfill, sanitary landfill, and design period is 15 years or 20 years, you need to really see that how much cost will be required for operation and maintenance of that particular sanitary landfill, or if you are going for treatment composting plant, which design period is 20 years, 25 years. So, how much is the manpower cost will be required, how much amount of energy cost will be required for running of the running of instruments of that particular project. So, that local corporation should be well aware about that. And when you talk about the funding, the government, and normally this revenue will come up from the property tax. So, I think we normally do not aware that from where they are getting the revenue, but most of the corporation they include this cost of collections or solid waste management revenue that they will collect from the property tax. And they normally if you ask the local people to pay maybe 30 rupees per month, is also the people are not ready to pay, because they won't consider that is the collection is a one kind of service. So, it is good to collect from the property tax. And suppose that because government is not able to run the entire plan, is not able to operate the entire plan, they can go for public private partnership, is a so that this private company will invest the money, and they will get some kind of return out of that. And also that the local corporation will be get benefited for the collection and treatment or disposal. And there are very few ULBs take loan for establishing MSWM services in their area. The loans also are available, but very few ULBs are taking loan for that, and mostly rather than loan, they will talk about public private partnership. Okay. So, that they need not to take any kind of loan. And also you see, this is one of the news that lack of access to the finance key hurdle in municipal solid waste management. There is one of the city says that the lack of access to the financial financial keys. Now, when you say that what exactly a full cost accounting for the MSWM projects. So, it will provide a systematic framework for identifying and evaluation the cost associated with integrated solid waste management plan. Also, this FCA that is full cost accounting provide accurate and complete information of real cost of managing municipal solid waste management. So, this actually detail is given in solid waste management manual. Also you can go through that manual, also read on to that. And it says that full cost accounting says that the solid waste management plan or integrated solid waste management will be need to be discussed about this all kind of cost. There is a real cost like front end cost, capital cost, operating cost, contingency cost, back end cost also need to be know that environmental cost and special cost like aesthetic, the quality of life, that cost also need to be finalized before going for solid waste management plan. So, we will go one by one. Already I put some important points under the each cost, like for front end cost will be required, we have to calculate the cost for land, permissions, building constructions will be there in that particular location. That is the major front end cost, and also the capital cost like how much fixed cost will be required for plant. Suppose if you are purchasing some kind of machines or manufacturing. So, for that you need to know the how much is the capital cost will be required for the particular plant. So, we will go one by one likewise. And also the FCA covers the life cycle of the MSW activity from cradle to grave. Okay. So, means is a front end cost to the back end cost. So, the complete life cycle of the entire project cost will be calculated by the full cost accounting. Now, what is the advantage of FCA? That once the ULB have the particular FCA is created, then it can use the FCA for planning tools for the preparing budget and determining future direction. So, even they can easily finalize once they know the entire cost of the project. FCA helps the ULBs to examine various financing scenario and their resulting impact in the future. This also they can see that, and the FCA also can also be used while analyzing cost in the long term. FCA result can also be used to maintaining transparency between the ULB and general public. Even while making the PPP projects also, this FCA will be very important, from where from where you will be required private corporation will participate in that particular cost. Result from FCA would be considered in conjunction with the non-monetary cost to help the ULBs to make better information decision for MSWM. So, we will go for one by one. The front end cost, like front end cost include the pre-operative cost that are required before the implementing any MSWM system, investigating costs such as topographic survey, geological survey, geotechnical survey, hydrogeological investigation or environmental impact assessment. So, like when I am saying that is a before implementing the MSWM plan or MSWM system. So, the data will collect like this, like in some indicative front end cost is given for the typical solid waste management system, like obtaining permitting for land, topographic survey. So, like waste characterization also, waste quantification, environmental impact assessment. Likewise, and you see you put the particular rate and how much amount will be required for that. Suppose like for environmental impact assessment need to be do first before finalizing. Suppose if you finalize one particular disposal site, okay, so you have to get permission from the local pollution control board. So, obviously pollution control board will ask the environmental impact assessment report, EIA report will be asked. And what is the meaning of EIA report? Like suppose if you are disposing the waste in particular area, what could be the impact in the local climate because of disposing that impact. So, what this local corporation can ask some academic institute, there are a number of private companies are doing the environmental impact assessment. So, they have to pay for that. So, likewise that cost also we can include into that, like waste characterization, waste quantification. This will be important data before finalizing the MSWM plan. Now, next is the capital cost. So, like capital cost are one time fixed cost, okay, because the capital cost. So, one time you have to purchase some kind of vehicles, okay, or some kind of machines. So, that is a capital cost associated with the project, which may include the price of purchasing assets such as land, vehicle, equipment or other supplies. Like this, these costs will be majorly required while collection and transportation costs, like you will be required collection tools, storage bin, transportation vehicle, construction of transport stations. These costs will be included here. Like for processing disposal site, it will include the cost of land building, plant machines. So, suppose trommel, you want to go for trommel segregation. So, that trommel cost will include into the capital cost. Okay. So, this is the indicative format for assessing capital costs, like what are the equipments will be required, like tricycle rickshaw, tipper trucks, dumper placer, compactors. So, likewise we can see that how much is the numbers will be required, and based on that we can calculate the how much total capital cost will be required. So, this is another indicative format for the assessing capital cost for processing and disposal. So, like in the processing, land cost, building cost, the tipper tractor cost, sanitary landfill cost, entire construction cost of that, the weighbridge, you will be required one particular office, one laboratory construction will be required. So, that is under the capital cost. Now, this is just I think by photographs I am showing it here, like for collection and transportation cost for storage bins, for transportation vehicle. So, entire construction of this is construction of transfer station. So, it will be required offices, will be required storage for different waste like non-biodegradable, biodegradable waste, and conveyor belts. So, likewise the facility will be required. So, for construction of that, and for processing and disposal. So, for MRF processing cost. So, for entire construction of that particular plant. Now, next is the operation and maintenance cost. Okay. Third is the operation and maintenance cost. So, this cost is a ongoing cost and shall include all costs incurred in the daily operation of the facility. It shall include labor and salary cost, administrative and management cost, maintenance of vehicle, equipment, fuel cost. So, this was the operation and maintenance cost. This is what I was talking about, that what is happening is most of the schemes are coming from the central government, is beneficial for the local authorities like JNRM program, even Swachh Bharat mission also. And from these kind of schemes, or there are other schemes are also available from where the capital funds are getting it, but we have to will be required the very good quantity of operation and maintenance costs, because lot of manpowers are required. So, we have to pay salary for that. Even whatever the equipments or machines we have been purchased, for their maintenance also you will be required money. A lot of collection vehicles is having the problem while hauling the waste. So, like corrosion will be the sometimes issue, and their diesels will be required, diesel or petrol, that fuel will be required, that cost will under the operation cost, and this is good amount of money is required per day. So, they should have some kind of revenue from the collection to get the operation and maintenance cost. Next is the contingency cost. So, the contingency costs include cost that might or might not be incurred in some point in the future, and this cost can best be described in the probabilistic term, like their expected value, their range, probability of their exceeding some dollar amount. Like in the example include the cost of remediating unknown or future release of pollutant, such as leaks from the currently operating municipal landfill. So, suppose this contingency cost I think by one example, like this is one example for landfill. Now, the current running landfill, there is no gas release, the gas is not coming out, even leachate is not going to the create any problem. But in future it is possible, after 5 years, after 10 years of operation, it is possible. So, you need to have some contingency money with you, so that wherever is required you can use it. Again for suppose for one composting plants, is not that the entire composting plants you will construct in a one time only. you will increase the capacity time to time. So, suppose you will construct now a small compost plant like 50 tons per day capacity plant, and now after 5 years or after 10 years you are seeing that you have to extend the capacity of that compost plant, maybe for 50 tons to 100 tons per day capacity. So, for that you will be required this contingency money to extend the facility in the future. And obviously, when you prepare the any plan, obviously you will also has to discuss about the future plan, because see, in for particular city, every 5 years, every 10 years, with the census we are knowing that population is increasing every 10 years census after census, and these population also is increasing by 5 to 7% every year normally in India. So, the not only population, but now industrialization also is coming every 5 years, every 10 years there are a lot of changes in the infrastructure of the city. So, because of that your waste generation also will increase. So, when you do the waste characterization or the waste generation data, always see that after 5 years, after 10 years, how the characteristics are will get changed and how this quantity is getting increased. So, that you are ready, because whatever facility you are designing, whether is a treatment facility, whether is a collection facility, you are planning for next 20 years. So, you should be ready for next 20 years. So, obviously, you know that if the waste characteristics will get changed. So, suppose now currently you are thinking about one particular biological treatment facility, because currently you are getting 60% of biological matter. So, obviously, one compost plant you are planning, but after 5 years, after 10 years you are seeing that your biological waste has been reduced and lot of dry waste has been increased. So, maybe the currently you are not thinking to have the one waste to energy plant or one incineration plant facility, but after 10 years you have to ready for the this kind of the incineration plant, you have to see that. But it is not only the contingency cost will be will help into that, but you will be required another capital fund. So, by having the capital fund for another treatment facility and along with the contingency cost, you can have the another facility in the future. And next is the back end cost. So, back end cost is important. This is the cost of post employment health. So, is a retirement benefit for current MSW workers shall also fall in this category, and also the properly wrap up the operation and take proper care of landfill, other MSW facility at the end of their useful life. So, this is the back end cost. So, back end cost by such example like the 20 years landfill time or landfill design period is over. Now how much amount of cost will be required to maintain after 20 years also, though everything has been over, but there are number of manpowers will be required. So, you have to also see that after 20 years where these manpowers will go. I think for that also you need to see that whether they can join in somewhere else, or suppose somebody is getting retired, so that cost also need to be known. So, this is one of the article like MSW project citizens will have to pay additional fee. So, the back end cost also need to be calculated. Now, next is the environmental cost. So, these are the implications on the environment that might occur due to the MSW transportation, treatment, disposal activity, like cost for mitigating contaminated soil, pollutant surface and groundwater bodies, poor air quality due to burning of MSW. So, these data will come up very simply by EIA, and because in the EIA report this all data will get collect by whomever is doing the EIA, whether is a academic institute or any private institute, and also they will show you the complete data after once the plant is getting constructed and getting operated for 15 years, 20 years, what kind of pollution will be come up, and also it will also share the what kind of mitigations has to be do. So, that mitigation also has to be calculated onto the cost, how much cost will be required into that. Maybe the suppose there are a lot of air pollutions are coming after 5 years. So, maybe you have to go for large plantations in the local area. Maybe in the mitigation this is one of the good idea to have lot of plantation into that particular area. Now, suppose the groundwater has been polluted. So, you have to create one facility for treat the groundwater. So, that kind of cost also need to be look upon, and they also the similar kind of thing, like one example is given here, the manufacturing and transportation MSW management equipment vehicles can entail environmental impact prior to their use, such as depletion of non-renewable mineral resource, air and water pollution and waste generation. Next is the social cost. Social cost, these are the costs include the mitigation, adverse impact on the health, well-being of the local community on account of improper MSW. In India, such impacts are generally not compensated. This is the issue in India. So, here the social cost is not first has to be calculated for the our manpowers, how their the life has been changed because of working for the solid waste management projects. Even the local residents near to the disposal site, how their lives had been changed, that impact has to be calculated. Okay. And see, there are lot of rag pickers are working into the landfill. I think there also you need to see that how best you can benefited them, how their life you can change. So, maybe you can have one like the one example could be like that. You can create one we can construct one particular school, or whatever the girls or boys are working for the waste collection in the landfill. Maybe you can provide them one particular school admission, and because they are not able to pay the fees and all. So, maybe the local authority can pay their fees or whatever things are required for the schools. So, that is one kind of social benefit we can do it for the under the solid waste management projects. So, this is one important point also here, like issues of environmental justice can arise for planner when any of the following for disappropriately on certain social groups, like adverse impact on property value, community image and aesthetic. This is also important one, because wherever I think the location you are finalizing for landfilling. So, obviously, the property value in the local area will get reduced, and also their local image, even aesthetics in that particular area is getting issue. And the opportunity cost of alternative and future land use, noise, odor, traffic. I think this is this comes under the environmental justice. So, this is also important cost. Now, the financial viability of MSWM system, like how they could be or any corporation could be a viable or financial viable. So, because of this cost recovery mechanism. So, every corporation without cost recovery is very difficult to get viable. like this cost recovery could be possible from the user fee, sale of end product, municipal fund or grant from the state and central government, loan or funding from the private sector through PPP. So, this is important points based on only any local authority could be viable, and MSWM system are sustainable only and when they financially viable on standalone basis. So, that is why this user fee is very important and sale of end products is very important. So, when we are saying we have the proper composting facility, means that compost has to be sell or has to get some kind of money or energy production unit. So, obviously, that energy you can get some kind of return or some cost recovery should be from such kind of facilities. So, at present India is facing a issue with financial viability. This is the I think that is why when you talk about waste management in India, I think we should ask the question that whether such kind of plants are financially viable and is possible to run for next 20 years. So, this was the one of the news like waste to energy, why rupees 10,000 crores industry is facing issue. So, we are putting lot of fund for any projects, but still there the big companies also are facing issue because there is not sustainable. So, now the identification of sources of finance. So, sources what could be the sources of financing MSWM projects or activities, like local tax, property, water tax. I think mostly we will take that end user fee through the property tax, user charges rent from property, grant from state and central government like Swachh Bharat Mission. There is also state finance commission grant, also their local authority will get loans from the capital market, government or financial institutions, loan from international agency like ADB, Asian Development Bank, JICA, this Japan Bank for international corporation. They also give fund, okay, under the PPP also, and also from tipping fee from the private operator under the PPP mode. So, this was also news that the garbage management is about fighting corruption. Now, for property tax, I think through that we get some kind of user fee from the local people. Like traditionally, property tax in India is a single largest internal source of revenue to the ULB, contributing as much as like 25 to 30% to their total revenue. So, this property tax is a major finance of the local authorities, and these government grants are another major source of revenue, mainly utilized for paying wages to the employee and for undertaking specific projects. So, the most of the ULBs use a sizable part of the property tax to support MSWM activities. However, since the assessment and collection of property tax is poor, ULBs are unable to allocate adequate fund for MSWM services, and normally it is calculated by lump sum approach property tax, okay. And ULB in state could collect only 36% property tax as far as this fiscal. So, this is the major one from which that operation and maintenance cost the ULBs are taking. User charges, like I think I found these important points needs to be considered by ULB to finalize the levying users or service fee, like polluter pays principle based on polluters pay, because if you are generating waste, obviously this waste will be and once it get disposed, the pollution will come. So, obviously you have to pay for pollution pay based on pollution pays principle, like those responsible for waste generation should pay for its collection and safe disposal. Proportionality, the user fee should be in the proportion to the quality of waste generated and level of service provided to the waste generator. And especially, so when I talked about house to house collection system, then only I was sharing about user fee, because I think one particular person is coming to your house and collecting the waste. So, is a service. So, obviously, you have to pay for that, and capacity to pay. You have to also check that affordability of taxpayer kept in mind while fixing the user charges. But see, the affordability 30 rupees in a month is not that large, but maybe I think some of the locations in the city you can make it free, but most of the city people will be able to pay 30 rupees or 50 rupees in a month. And following criteria may be considered for enhancing the tax base in the ULB, like subsidy for the poor, higher rates for non-residential establishment, like the commercial facilities you can ask them to pay more, and also see that willingness to pay, and introducing higher service fee. This is also important criteria. And like normally for efficient administration of the service fee depends on 3 A's, like accountability, acceptability, and affordability. I think by that way we can finalize the user fee. So, like this one of the panchayat in Goa has asked the fines of 25,000 for burning garbage. So, this comes under the polluter pay principle. So, this kind of revenue also we can generate by having, you need to create some kind of bylaws for your particular city. Now, grants from the central or state government, like so because most of the ULBs, they are not able to manage by their whatever the cost is fund is available with them. So, always they have to depend on to the grant from some central or state government, and time to time substantial financial support will come from central or state government, like some of the grants for the ULBs, like finance commission grants. I think JNRM program scheme also, the fund has come from finance commission grants, central government funds like similar JNRM, Swachh Bharat mission, and like similarly the state finance commission grants also available to run the particular authority once every 5 years to support their administration, governance or municipal service deliveries. Now, these another loans also are available from capital market or from the government or financial institutions. So, there are some organizations who are, some are government or some are private. From there they can get the loan, like this known is HUDCO. This is a well known organizations where these ULBs can take the loan, even from ILFS, like infrastructure leasing, financial services, NABARD. These also I think the lot of projects are under the NABARD or HUDCO. So, private sector participation is a beneficial option for financing municipal service while ensure improved service delivery. So, that was the discussion came, like if you ask the private sector participation, that is more beneficial, or loans or grants from bilateral and multilateral donors, like Asian Development Bank or World Bank. World Bank will get some soft loans to run the solid waste management programs for the city, and also the municipal bonds are also available. Is a good source of raising finance from the market, are very popular in the several developed countries. In India also, the municipal bonds is just in the nascent stage now, just started, and only few ULBs with a large and buoyant revenue basis have been successfully in raising the fund through them. Like Ahmedabad has raised funds several times through the tax free bonds. I have been able to raise money for the infrastructure development, and also is proposing now the government plans to push up the municipal bonds, so that the local authorities will be beneficial. Also the revenues from the sale of products derived from the waste processing. So, obviously when I discussed about the to have the composting facility, biogas facility, lot of products, even incineration, lot of product, heat, gas, power, steam, compost, biogas, these all the products are there. These products also we can get lot of revenue by producing this kind of product like RDF is also one of the product. But now see, just remember that, because this is also very good amount of fund is possible to generate. So, need to have properly technically designed these treatment processes, so that whatever the product is getting generated, that could be sell into the industries or in the local area and get lot of revenue from that. Also the tipping fee from the private sector, so is another source of revenue, and this fee may be prescribed the large waste generator for processing and disposal of their waste at the landfill. So, I think this kind of tipping fee they will get it from the only those generator where large amount of waste is getting generated, like infrastructure company, lot of C&D waste is generated, even industries under the city, and where they are disposing the waste. So, on that way, even this tipping fee can be generated in the festival seasons in India also. Like there are number of marriages in a year in India, and in that case also they can get the tipping fee. So, I think here I'll give one example, like to book one particular marriage hall, you are paying 50,000 rupees. So, and there a lot of waste is getting generated, and this waste has to be collected by the local authority. So, what we can do it here, like rather than 50,000, that this particular marriage hall will take 60,000 rupees charge, and that 10,000 is for waste management. So, likewise that 10,000 will get it to the local authorities as a tipping fee. For because they and some amount of fund will be required for collection of waste and disposal. So, by that way we can get some kind of money or some kind of revenue, we can get it for the solid waste management program. So, this was one of the news, like trash collection to cost more from September 1. Deficit management, this is also important. Like ULB should endeavor to recover 100% of total cost of service as estimated above through levy of user charges at polluter pay principle. This should include the cost of door to door collection, transportation, and cost of street sweeping. So, this we can calculate format for gap and bridging the financial deficit for the solid waste project. So, once you know the proper deficit, we can consider or you can extend the revenue generation for the project. So, like Pune Municipal Corporation to impose solid waste management fee as part of property tax bill. This is what I think when they calculate the deficit and how to manage that particular deficit. So, they started the impose the solid waste management fee in the property tax. And also I think just few slides I put it for JNRM program, Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewable Mission. So, this is the massive city modernized scheme launched by the government of India. It envisaged a total investment of about $20 billion over 7 years. It named as a Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister, and this scheme was officially inaugurated by the previous Prime Minister, and in 2005 to improve the quality of light and life and infrastructure in the city. So, it started in 2005 for 7 years period up to March 2012, and also it is extended tenure of mission for another 2 years up to 2014. This was the development for context of urban conglomerates focusing on Indian city, and this was the fund, like total project cost was this is in 1000 crores, like 2060,000 crores. So, this was the share, like 1039 was the central share, and state and local authority was 1021,000 crores. So, it can be seen that share of the central government state ULBs is more or less equal almost. However, the central share is higher for individual projects in city, and this was the few data, like Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh was the major states which has a higher level of investment under this scheme, and states like Rajasthan, Assam, Madhya Pradesh are high potential state, a large section of the population still not covered, and AP, Karnataka, which are among the leading state in PPP in the commercial infrastructure, and also a huge potential for such partnership in SWM sector, as these states are not only progressive, but are undergoes high rate of urbanization. So, you see here this is the less amount of investigation, less amount of investment, and this also by yearly how much 100 crores was put it for the projects. So, mostly the 79% for the collection and transportation, entire most 79% of cost, only 6% for treatment and disposal, and 15% for recycling, because see that was in 2005 our collection was very poor. So, obviously, the lot of fund has been utilized for the collection and transportation, and this is what now one particular slide you can see here. This is the investment required for SWM projects in India by 2031. So, you can see here if you consider the north part of India is required huge amount of money, like similarly west, east and northeast and south. So, how much amount of crores? So, take example of north, like 27,369 crores will be required, amount of money will be required, that is for apex cost, and similarly for the treatment, disposal you will be required huge amount of money. It provides a glance at quantum of investment required in the creation of solid waste management infrastructure in the Indian cities. So, this Swachh Bharat mission also need to be extended, and every year you have to create one particular kind of fund, whether it is from central or state government, and to create the facilities in the each ULB of the country. This is one case of financial failure projects. So, this was for Hyderabad, because the Hyderabad, as I was telling in this slide, like the Andhra Pradesh, which was among the leading state in PPP projects. So, I think you can see in the entire in this particular flow chart, this was the one private company was working along with the Greater Hyderabad Municipal Corporation. This was a PPP project under the BOT mode and concession agreement for 25 years. The BOT I will explain in next class, like build, operate and transport. This is the one kind of particular program under the PPP, and was the major important point was that the funding was 35% from the central government and 15% for the from the state government. But what has happened, this was completely very good flow chart. You will see that even the sustainability also, the tariffs for RDF, I think that money is getting generated or revenue was getting generated under the projects. But what has happened, like total the waste collection was 3,800 metric tons. Total budget of project was 434.91 crores. The problem was that a financing issue was faced during the project like implementation phase. Government of India refused to contribute its share of 35% of the project cost, accounting to rupees 152 crore, by claiming that the state had already exhausted its investment of 7 years under the JNRM scheme. See, which I was sharing, that the entire money has been utilized under the JNRM scheme by the state. So, then why this particular this state is required why they required the money from the central government? Because of that around 152 crores rupees they are not ready to pay. So, because of what solution has been adopted by the local authority or state, the state government agrees to bail out the Greater Hyderabad Municipal Corporation by bearing that part of the project cost which was provided by the Government of India. So, this state government paid this 35% of total cost. So, altogether 45% of total project cost was taken up by the state government. By that way it was run the entire project. Now, that was actually one of the failure, but after that is one of the successful projects has been done in the Hyderabad. And now for Swachh Bharat mission, there are some data about that, like this has been launched in June 1914, and the objective was is not only the solid waste management, but like elimination of open defecation, eradication of manual scavenging. So, currently now that open defecation, many states announced that they are free from the open defecation, and even manual scavenging also has been removed out now. And there the one of the tasks was modern and scientific municipal solid waste management, generator awareness was that one of the mission of this particular scheme. So, mission component was the construction of household toilets, community toilets, public toilets, solid waste management also, and capacity building. So, the financial patterns, like the first installation has released to the state and constructed lot of toilets, and states normally is contributed 25% of fund towards all components to match 75% from central share. So, under Swachh Bharat mission. Now, allocation of funds to state, normally to the states or union territories from the central government, like for project fund based on normality criteria, performance fund based on performance matrix, public awareness for capacity building like 60%, 3% is for capacity building. These the crores of fund, I think based on this particular classification, the allocation of funds to the state, different states or union territories, the central government will provide. One of the successful projects, you know, that is Indore is one of the successful project under the Swachh Bharat mission. So, and also in the one of the module we have seen that what exactly Indore has been done to clean the particular city, and even in 2020 also successive 4th year it come up to the cleanest city in India. So, I think their financial sustainability also need to be checked that. So, any city can't be a successive without finance. So, is a important one. So, here you understood what are the ways that the corporation, the local authorities could be financially sustainable. Now, one very important discussion, because of all the discussion it has come out that because even center or state government is not able to fund the particular projects for the entire design period for 20 years or in the future. So, it is good to have the private participation. So, this private participation is not only for the funding, but also for delivery, because we believe that the product delivery is far better from the private participation. So, now these PPP projects need to be discussed. So, from next lecture I will talk about public private partnership. First I will discuss about the basics about this PPP. I will give some particular case studies from PPP projects, whether it is a successful or failure projects. Thank you.